So we got some economic stuff, some economic tweets here. So this is Unusual Whales. American job market faces its deepest pessimism since 2008, 2009 during the Great Recession per CNN. Like last week, we were discussing how people, the perception is if they lost their job today, that the majority of people think it would be very hard to find another job because so many people they know that have lost their jobs are unable to find a job. Didn't you say one of your friends been out of work 10 months now or something?
Yeah. Oh, I actually found a job though.
Ah,
So good. Yeah.
well, cool. Congratulations.
But I don't think he starts for another like 3 months. So
3 months?
yeah. But he got it. So that's
Hopefully he
good
doesn't
for
get
him.
laid off. He works in tech?
No, I guess car sales or whatever.
Uh,
Yeah.
what's the next one, Chunk? So this is Nick Jurley. He's the guy that has the Reventure app, which if you're trying to figure out like what your property values are doing, or if you got a neighborhood that you're watching or several of them and you're thinking about buying, you can look up that area and see what the projections are over the coming 12 months. Like right now, if things continue on the way they are in Florida, we're going to see probably about a 9% price decline across the state over the next coming 12 months. So if you're going to buy and the property values went up 40-50% during 2021 to 2022, that's a bubble that got inflated and it's slowly popping. And so if you're thinking about buying now and you want to buy in an area that went up 50% and it's projected to go down 10% the next year and you're thinking about buying, well, if you buy when it's going to go 10% down and then it continues next year and the year after, you'll still be underwater. And so what would be better if the projection is the values are going to continue to go down in the area you want to buy, just to wait until it hits bottom. The idea is to buy low, and sell high, not buy high and sell low, which a lot of people are going to end up doing. So this is the rent growth in single family homes. You can see where it shot up during 2020 with all the printed money, all the people moving around, everybody buying up the rentals and turning them into Airbnbs because they all thought they were going to be Airbnb millionaires. And now, when you look at the last time rent growth was this low was 2011, 2012.
Yeah, looks like right around there.
So that was like the tail end of the last bust.
Yeah, everyone thinks they're a genius in a bull market.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's why you got to look at the data. What is the data doing? That's why now the economy is going the other way. You start like anybody that's like a Ponzi scheme gets exposed. That's why was it SoftBank a year ago? The bank, Silicon Valley Bank, went bust. Yeah, the Ty Lopez thing. He got charged with running a Ponzi scheme because I guess basically what they were doing, and I know we talked about this last week, was they were buying. They would buy like Radio Shack, Pier One Imports, other companies that everybody knew, but they had gone out of business. So they bought basically their brand name and their website, and to just basically have a website that they would sell stuff on. And so they raised something like $200 million, and I don't know, it was over the last 5-10 years, whatever. And I guess what was happening was he kept bringing in new investors, and they were using the new investors to pay the original investors. That's exactly what Bernie Madoff was doing. But when the economy goes the other way, you don't have so many investors.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get new investors in. And with the economy going the other way, the businesses were struggling. And I guess some of the people that were invested with them weren't getting paid or were getting the runaround, and so they reported him to the SEC. The SEC looked into it and charged Ty Lopez. That's the guy everybody's probably seen his commercials. Hey, just here in my garage, that dude. And they had a very famous viral, campaign. That was 8-10 years ago, whatever it was. And now he's been charged with running a Ponzi scheme. And so that's what happens when the economy goes the other way. The Bernie Madoffs, the people that are basically scamming people, Because when money's abundant and there's lots of investors, you can always bring in new investors to pay the old ones. But when the economy goes the other way, there aren't so many investors around, and then you end up running out of money, and then you go bust, and then you get exposed. And that's basically where he's at. So we're still kind of like 2007, so it'll be interesting. Like next year, be March would be like 2008. So we were going over the stats last week with office building vacancies 25-30% in a lot of areas. That's not sustainable. That means with that much vacant space that they can't pay their debt service, and so they're going to be turning those properties back, giving them back to the bank basically because they don't cash flow. And when you take those tremendous write downs, that's when your bank becomes insolvent. So there's a lot of small and regional banks. I guess the bigger banks just don't have that much exposure to the commercial office.
Do you think office buildings will become obsolete? Because also like they're what like
It's
six
just
foot over.
overbuilt because with the remote work and the downsizing and then AI, they just realized they didn't need so much office space. And so companies naturally downsize when they would renew their leases. They wouldn't renew it for the same space they had. They would downsize their space, and that just happened across the board in corporate America. So now you got more office space than you have companies that need it. It's supply and demand. So when that happens, if you want to rent that property out, you got to drop the prices down to where people are willing to pay the rates.
How much do you think it would be to like say you have an office building in like a downtown area that's just basically empty to repurpose that for residential? How much would that cost for a job? I guess it's very
Well,
building
you got to
dependent.
understand a office building basically is going to have like you got to deal with the plumbing issue. You don't have
Oh
all the
right,
plumbing
yeah,
risers and stuff. You usually just have like one bathroom per floor and you have one stack kind of going up the building. Whereas if you turn those individual apartments, you don't have balconies. I mean, you can cut out part of the exterior of the building and make an internal balcony.
yeah,
Um, but structurally, it was designed for an office building. So if you're going to add a bunch of bathrooms and stuff, all that stuff requires, fireproofing, drywall that is 1 hour rated for fire, and so you're just adding a tremendous amount of weight
yeah.
into areas of the building where structural design wasn't designed to handle that. So it's not easy to do, especially if you have to go in and reinforce the
Yeah.
structure to handle all the additional weight that you're. Because if you put a bunch of bathrooms and you go in the bathrooms, typically you're going to stack them all on top of each other, so every one of them uses the same risers. Well, you're adding all that weight, and so when the building was originally designed, it wasn't designed for all that
Yeah.
weight. And so if you're going to put all that additional weight in, then you got to beef up the structure to handle it. Otherwise, you can cause the building to collapse if you put too much weight in it. So that's why more often than not, it's just better to knock the
Just leave
fucking
it.
building
Yeah.
down because that's what's called functional obsolescence. It's functionally obsolete.
I really like those multi. I like the buildings a lot too, where it's like the first six floors or something, or either like shops, restaurants, or like offices or something, and then all residential on top. I see them a
Yeah,
lot
that's
in.
pretty common.
I've seen it a lot in like Santiago, and that's everywhere in Japan. Every building's like that, where they just have all these. The first six floors are all just bars, restaurants, anything, and it's
Hmm.
great.
Well, it's great for the residents that live there
Yeah,
because then they can order takeout or they can just walk downstairs, get their food, and come back up or whatever.
so it's becoming more common, but it's you don't see it in the U.S. as much. Yeah, those are.
Well, most of the new properties are built with retail and
Yeah.
restaurant space in the first couple
I think it
floors.
works so much. It's a great idea, I think. Yeah, because most people also don't want to live on those first couple of floors too. So I think it solves two problems.
Like the Solaire in Orlando, that was one that was developed during the last bus cycle, and so once it was finally completed, they couldn't sell enough units, and then so that developer ended up going bankrupt, and so you had one tower that was office, you had the tower next to it, which was residential, and the first floors had restaurants, and there was a movie theater in there as well. There was like a 8 or 10. That's right on Church Street. You ever been to the Solaire downtown Orlando, the movie theater in the building downtown?
Yeah, where there's like restaurants all around
Yeah.
it. There's
So,
homeless everywhere.
yeah, exactly. And it smells like piss everywhere. It wasn't like that 20 years ago, but that's your commie mayor, Buddy Dyer, that just again, because they just allow all that shit. It's not safe. When I moved up there in the mid '90s, downtown Orlando was beautiful,
It is a pretty area, but
but it's like all around Lake Eola is just homeless people laying all around the lake. They're on every fucking corner begging for money. It just smells like piss everywhere downtown. And late at night when you're around walking, it's like, man, it's dodgy.
a long time ago there was a homeless lady sitting on like a crate and she had her legs wide open and she didn't have underwear on.
Oh, you got a nice free show.
I didn't see it,
Oh,
but my friend did.
She was like, "What you got going on there, Grandma?"
Yeah.
So
like
this,
looking into the void and the void looks back at you. They need
so
that.
markets and mayhem, housing's in a bubble. So this chart is U.S. home price history from 1890 to 2025. So you can see the last time the 2008 bubble, or is that 2008 or
That's
2006?
2006.
2006. 2006 was like when it got to the top.
Yeah.
That was like May of 2006 was when I sold my last house that I had. I sold it right at the tippy top. And then a year later we sold our office building before the office building market started, crashing. But you see, I mean, just in a couple of years when all that free money was flowing, you got that ridiculous appreciation in value. And what happened is, it was a bubble. It was artificially inflated. And then
Jesus.
when they raised the interest rates, everything crashed back down to earth. And so that's what's happening because that's not natural.
It's like
Because what normally drives that is people's income going up. Because as their income goes up, they can afford more. They can afford a bigger house with more amenities, pool home, more square footage, more bedrooms, more baths, that kind of thing.
it's just like how much it's just a steady growth into small inclines and declines, and then it's just
Yeah, so that's over I was born in 1970, and you look at it, it just kind of muddled along, a little ups and downs, little boom and bust cycle. But fucking so
yes.
this was like after was 2001, September 11th, 2001, when the terrorist attacks happened. Economy went in the shitter. Lots of people in IT got laid off. You had the dot-com bubble blow up in 2001. And that was back when Amazon was in its infancy. Like one of the famous pets.com, was it pets.com, I think? Was one of the famous .com ones that everybody was like, "Oh, it's going to be a billion-dollar company." And it went fucking bankrupt. And so George Bush and who's Alan Greenspan was the guy running the Fed back then, lowered the interest rates to stimulate the economy. And George Bush says, "Go buy a house. Economy's great. Go shopping. Go on your vacation. Spend like normal." And so they kept the interest rates low. And then everybody got, same thing back then. Everybody was like, "Oh, I'm going to," because like you had new home communities where there might be, say, 100 lots. And whereas 2002, 2003, 2004, they're begging us to come to their open houses, bring our clients. Hey, we got a band, we got drinks, we got food, we got appetizers. They'd invite everybody from the industry there to show off their model homes. So to try to entice us to bring our buyers in. And then 2 years later, 2005, 2006, they don't even return our phone calls. And they're like, "Oh, we're not participating with brokers anymore." So in other words, if you brought your buyer in, they're like, "We're not going to pay you a commission if you sell one of our houses." And so then what would happen is they're like, "Hey, we got 100 lots available." And so there's a lottery, and it costs $1,000 to buy a ticket for the privilege of potentially being one of the winners and to get to buy one of the houses in there. And so they kind of like squeezed us out. And they went from kissing our ass to being really fucking rude and arrogant. And because what would happen is you had strippers that were able to do those Nina loans, no income, no asset. They had good credit. And so they would buy 2 or 3 properties in those communities that, they would be like $300,000 homes, take a year to build. And when the houses were built, they would turn it around and put it on the market for 400 grand. It would sell like that. And they're like, "Oh, I'm a real estate genius. I just made, 100 grand on this property." Well, when the interest rates went the other way, they couldn't flip them anymore. And so they had like 2, 3 properties, and now the properties are worth less than what they paid for. And then they'd start walking away from the properties and short selling them. And then once the value started going down, people with good credit and income started walking away from their properties because they didn't want to continue paying on a property that they owed more than it was actually worth. And like I said, my dad, he had to wait 17 years, 17, 18 years for the value of his condo to come back to what it was he paid for in 2004, I think it was.
Wow. That's
So he
great.
bought it in 2004, and it within 6 months when they started raising the interest rates, because it was September 2004 was the first interest rate increase. So I think it was June, July when he bought it. He bought it in like a 55 up and up community, which I warned him about, but he's gonna do what he wants anyways. And so he was underwater 6 months after he bought the thing. He owed more than it was worth. And because I think he might have done high 100% financing or something like that, or maybe put 3% down. I can't remember. We did the loan for him actually, but I can't remember what it was because it's so long ago. And he wasn't able to sell that thing until 2022.
For like the same value, right? Basically what he bought
Like
for?
15, 20 grand more than what he paid.
Yeah.
But almost the whole time he owned it, he owed more than it was worth. I mean, it was worth less than what he paid for it. And since he had a high loan amount, he was kind of stuck in it. Even when he had it rented, he was still negative cash flow every month. But he was like I said, 17 fucking years. So you buy wrong at the wrong time. He was on the wrong side of that curve there. And so again, you guys, especially you younger people that are worried about buying a house, it's like 2 to 3 years, you're gonna have plenty of opportunity. Just bide your time, save your money, and because that again, that's a bubble. It was artificially inflated, and so now that the conditions are that cause the bubble to inflate are gone, then you're gonna get what's called deflation or disinflation. So all the assets that shot up are coming back down to earth because the main reason is supply and demand, and people are not making more money. The median income is not taken off. So it just doesn't justify those high rates. We had the same exact problem the last time around. So that is going to come down. And the other thing, like we were talking about last week, is from starting next year for the next decade, you've got 17, 18 million baby boomers that are homeowners that are going to be selling their houses because they need to downsize or because they died. And so that's 18 million plus homes that are going to be coming on the market. And one of the slides you'll see here, I think it might be the next one after that. So this shows what the status is of, because again, it's supply and demand. Right now, home sellers outnumber buyers by more than 500,000. That's the largest gap that's ever been recorded. So in other words, there's 500,000 more people trying to sell their house than there are buyers. And the only way that those houses are going to sell is if they lower their price. It's just supply and demand. It's just the numbers are the numbers. So any area where, especially Texas, Florida, Louisiana, Atlanta, Tennessee, any of those areas
Like
that Texas that you saw the property values shoot up artificially, basically, it's going to come back down. It already is coming back down. Again, if you look at the Reventure app, you can see it really. You can drill it down wherever you live. You can see what your city or specific zip codes. What's interesting is your low to middle class is continuing to drop in value. The only real activity is in the affluent market, the people with money. Those are still kind of appreciating
like
a little bit. But, it's slowing a lot. Like the area where we live here, it's, pretty much everything that sells has a price reduction or they take a big hit to their asking price.
yeah, I feel like high-end vacation homes in areas always kind of lag a couple years behind.
Yeah, well, I
Everything
see a
stuff.
lot of people that bought Airbnbs, and because you can always tell they always have bunk beds. They're expensive houses, but they got bunk beds in there. And the reason why you're seeing them show up on Realtor.com looking for a long-term renter is because they can't cash flow with the short-term stuff because people aren't traveling like that anymore. People aren't coming to Florida to work remotely. And then with AI and all the downsizing at Google, I think they just announced yesterday, I think it was 600 more people they're laying off.
What happened to
Or no, it was Meta. I'm sorry, Meta's laying off 600 people in their AI division.
learn to code?
Yeah, the learn to code people are getting laid off because they don't need as much. And so this is a state fair of Texas saw a 400,000 person drop in attendance compared to a year before. And cost was cited as a key factor for families as to why they didn't attend the state fair this year. 400,000 people less. So what does a ticket for a fair cost? $5, $10, something like that? They're usually pretty inexpensive, aren't they?
Like 25, 30.
25 bucks.
I think like 25,
So that's
30.
millions of dollars less that
Yeah.
didn't come in. And
Let me look it up, actually.
again, it's because it's cost. They can't afford it, so they're not doing those things. And so what happens? People that work at the fair get laid off.
Yeah,
That
they're
just
getting really expensive now.
that's what happens when people don't have discretionary money. They don't do things like that anymore. That's a lot of fucking
One
people.
day is 30, but I guess season pass starts 52.
For like a state fair. Is
Yeah.
that what you're looking at? I don't. It doesn't say, but I'm curious as to how many people would go to the fair overall. Are we talking like millions of people? I would assume it's like millions of people go to it.
Yeah.
But 400,000, that's a lot.
Well, also the machines are crappy and broken down, and there's more deaths on
Well,
the
they go there
machine.
for the food a lot too. The state food.
The
they
food's
go-
pretty amazing. I mean, it's garbage food, but man, does it taste good.
2 million people visited this year
To Texas, the state
to the
fair?
state fair. Last year was 2.4 million.
Ah, okay. So yeah, last year 2.4 million attend the state fair in Texas in 2024. This year you had 2 million. That's a big It's a big drop, man.
Highest record is 2.5 million.
That's that's about 20% less. 1/5 less. That's a big hit, man. Because they were counting on that. So it's not only the admission that they're not getting, it's all the food and drinks and stuff that people would have bought and all the games they would have spent money playing.
Oh, Chippos wanted to know where you're getting your data from and how he can look it up for his country.
What data for what?
Like, I guess
For
the
real estate?
Reventure app, I guess.
Well, it's the Reventure app, but I think it's only in the States. It might be Canada as well. So Reventure app gets their data from Zillow, Redfin, and a few other places. So what he does is he buys the data, imports the data into their software, because it's great. You can do a bird's eye view. I used to have a service like that when I was in real estate, because we would want to look up, because we were buying and flipping foreclosure properties, and it would tell us things like if there was a list pendants on a property, meaning a foreclosure has been started. You could tell that. You could pull comps in the area. It was the same thing that appraisers basically use. So you can do like a desk appraisal. So if you're buying an investment property, you got to know what is the property worth in like new fixed up condition. And then once you know that, and you know what it's going to cost to buy it and sell it, what your holding costs are, how much it's going to cost to repair it, and then you add your figure in there for profit, then you deduct that, and what's left is the maximum price that you can pay for the property. Because we did everything based on the numbers. If the numbers didn't work, they didn't work. The bank would say, hey, here's a property we're getting listed. We go look at it, and we would offer them. Usually they always want more than it was worth. And like I remember I had a property, it was like 2.5 years. I had to wait for the bank because they would only drop every quarter, and it was a small percentage. I had to wait like 2.5 years for it to drop to a low enough figure to where the numbers made sense for an investor, where there's enough profit, just because it had the price of the house and the mortgage that had defaulted was so high, but the person living in the house just absolutely fucking trashed it. So it needed everything. Needed a kitchen, needed bathrooms. It was a mess.
For the Texas State Fair, they also suspended your right to conceal carry, so it turned a bunch of people off, considering it's right in the heart of the hood. People boycotted the fair due to the anti-2A as well.
Were they doing metal detectors and stuff?
I don't know, but that's just what Christopher Withers just said. Thanks for letting us know.
Interesting.